Hi, welcome to 10 Minute Strategy. This is Peter Propp. I'm here with Sandy Cohen. He is the founder and CEO of Speaklike Inc. And you can find them at speaklike.com. And they are in the language translations business. They do an online service. You can check them out. But I think, Sandy, why don't we have you describe the business in your own terms so we can get started?
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate you having me on. So what Speaklike has is a software system that's available online, on demand, in the cloud to get language translation. It's not machine translation, but rather it's human translation. We have several thousand translators working around the world in 38 languages that respond to requests for translation in real time or near real time. On the other end, and this is important, is what we've done is we've made access to this type of human translation really easy and fast and even integrated into other software so it can be fully automated on the front end.
Mm-hmm. In terms of the way it works, I saw a demo of the system the other day. So if I need to get a piece translated into French, I'll just put that block of text into your interface and get it sent out, and then one of your translators will sort of say, I'm going to do that piece of translation, and then they can get paid for it. Is that the way? If I got it right?
That's right. There's not really a bidding process, but if they're online, logged into Speaklike, then they'll get access to the work, and our system automatically distributes the work to all the translators that are currently logged in. If there are no French translators logged in at that moment, then Speaklike sends out email notifications to the French translators to say there's work waiting for you, and whoever logs in first gets access to the job.
Really cool. So, and obviously we're in such a flat world phenomena right now. It's more and more important to have access to really good translation. I had some experience back in IBM days with machine translation, and it really, if it gets you 70 to 80% of the way there, you feel pretty good about it. Is that where machine translation is these days? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't think it's at 80. Maybe it's at 65 or
65.
70.
Okay.
But what we found is our customers, when they come to us, they played around with machine translation and they've concluded that's just not good enough for business use.
Right. Right.
Machine translation can be right, but it can just as easily change the meaning of what you're trying to say. So if you're marketing to customers in other countries, if you're providing support to customers in other country, then it's important to be confident that the translation is going to reflect what you really want to say.
Right.
Machine translation doesn't do that. So our objective is to make translation as accessible, as easy, as almost as fast, and as automated as machine translation, but actually know that it's human quality behind it.
Right. Right. I think we've all played around with translating something to try to communicate with a friend overseas, or at least I have, and it doesn't necessarily go very well. You can really screw up if you trust Google's translation, or it used to be Alta Vista, right? Had the translation. Babelfish.
Yes.
Babelfish was
That's
the one
right.
everyone used, right?
Yes.
So tell me about the translators around the world. How many do you have right now?
We have several thousand, so we have about 6,000 in our system. A portion of them have been activated. They go through a test and training process before we make them available to our customers, and then from those we get ratings. We have peer ratings from other translators. We have our lead translators evaluate their work. We get customer feedback, and then when we work with our corporate accounts, we draw from that large pool of translators to set up smaller groups that work on individual accounts. So for some accounts, they have requirement for translators that have more technical experience. And others, it's more marketing language to a youth audience. And so part of our task is to be able to match up the translators that we have available to meet the objectives of our customers.
Okay. And how many customer-wise? Where are you at customer acquisition-wise?
Oh, it's been going great. So, we had an eightfold increase in customers in 2010, and we're looking to increase that significantly in 2011. But the other thing that's interesting is, our sweet spot with Speaklike is the ability to have very fast turnaround of translations and to manage that process. So we started out doing chat translation with real-time translation of chat messages,
Wow.
and the result of that is that we designed and developed a software system to manage very fast turnaround of translations. We know where our translators are. We manage the process end
Mm-hmm.
to end. And so what happened, though, is we had companies come to us and say, well, we don't need chat, but you need our website translated. It used to take 2 weeks. We need it done faster
Right.
because a lot of the content's old after 4 days.
Hmm.
So we said, okay, we could do it in 24 hours. And they proceeded to load 40,000 words into our system, and we got it done in about 24 hours.
Wow.
With dozens of translators working at the same time to process that. But another example is when you have customers in other languages, how do you provide support for them? So we have companies that use us for email support where a request might come in Japanese or Russian, for example, and it can be sent over to Speaklike, translated into English by one of our translators, and then the support rep can write a response in English. It comes back to Speaklike to be translated back into the original Korean or Russian
Mm-hmm.
and then sent out to the customer. And so they were able to use English-speaking workers to provide support for customers who speak other languages.
Right. Wow.
And there, we're talking about turnaround time of several hours. So it could be 2 weeks down to one day.
Right.
It could be 2 days down to 4 hours for email support. It could be real-time chat translation, which is nearly instantaneous. And that, but what we found is, it's a 90% time reduction that we can offer on human translation.
That's great. And you started the company in what year?
We first launched a beta in 2008,
Uh huh.
and then started bringing up some customers. Our first real customers came on about a year later as we went through a testing process with our beta,
Right.
and so we essentially started in the fall of 2009.
Okay. Cool. And tell me about your background. How did you get started with this?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I've started a few software companies in the past, and my previous company was an emergency notification service.
Mm-hmm.
And we had customers. First, actually, we had partners, developers in India and China. And I was curious, why how can we make this work more efficient?
Right.
And one of the big barriers was the language barrier. So why can't I have a phone call and speak in English and let the developer in India hear me in Hindi or the developer in China hear me in Chinese?
Right.
And
Right.
we started experimenting with machine translation and to make this possible. We realized that machine translation just wasn't going to be good enough for business use.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, okay, let's make human translation as efficient and cost effective as we can. And that Speaklike is a result. But another example is certain customers of ours would say, well, we need to send out these messages in multiple languages. So we want somebody to initiate an English language message, but we wanted to go out in 5 or 10 languages.
Hmm.
So how do we make that work? So it was really
Wow.
putting those two pieces together, researching the tools in the industry and finding out that they didn't exist. That gave me the idea that I could add value in this market.
Excellent. And so is this a space where you have some competition? Is it becoming a marketplace that has some velocity to it with besides you guys?
Well, the translation industry is a huge industry. So
Right.
it's estimated to have generated about $26 billion in revenue in 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and to be growing, significantly to 38 billion in the next few years.
Wow.
Most of the services are provided by what we call traditional translation companies that have project managers and desktop software.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an industry that's just now coming out of the 1980s.
Right.
And what we have is very unique in the world. If a customer says that I have high volume, I need quality translation, I need fast turnaround time, then we're the only company in the world that has the answer for them.
Mm-hmm.
If a company says we need to fully automate the process and reduce the work effort on our end, then we can provide that solution for them.
Interesting. And what are the rates? How do they fall out? Real quick, we've got about a minute left.
Okay, well, generally our rates are lower than traditional translation companies, and could be 50% lower, and sometimes even less, and it really depends on the volumes and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And so somebody can go to our website and sign up for as low as 6 cents per word, and our corporate customers generally pay a bit higher. And there are there are factors involved. How fast do they need it? What types of volumes are they sending through our system? Do they want a single pass, or do they want a guarantee of higher quality with a double pass with a reviewer looking at the first translator's work before sending it back?
I see. Really cool. All right. Well, everyone, check it out at speaklike.com. Sandy Cohen is the founder and CEO. Thanks so much for your time, Sandy. It's been a pleasure talking.
Thank you, Peter.